Gonzales is proposing a 2 to 3 year term for the president who will be elected in 2010 to give way to changes in the form of government and other constitutional amendments. The NSA chief adds general elections could be held again in 2012 to elect members of parliament. They will then choose the prime minister.
Pag hindi natin tinignan talaga yung pagbabago ng sistema, what I project is that, or predict is that after 2010 we will have more of the same. And I think our people deserve something better.
Gonzales expects resistance from some quarters, particularly candidates in the 2010 polls.
Ako naman naniniwala na kung talagang maayos ang pagbabago at ikaw ay isang leader na nag-initiate niyan, mai-elect ka ulit. Diba? So you can gain more. So what's wrong with consulting or getting the mandate of the people again?
Malacanang says it is open to Gonzales' proposal.
The president is all for the political reforms, no, that has been part also of her agenda. Basta lang naaayon siguro sa ating saligang batas.
Palace officials, however, are mum on President Arroyo's plans beyond 2010. Willard Chang, ABS-CBN News.
To tell us more about his proposal for a transition government for 2010, we're joined here in the studio by National Security Advisor Norberto Gonzales. Sir, good afternoon. Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon.
Walk us through the scenario as you envision it.
Well, you know, well, I'm thinking that I wish we could start it today, no? But because of our unpopularity, I don't think that's a wise idea. But I was just thinking of proposing it to the next president, that maybe, you know, if we're thinking in terms of something better for the country, for example, if we want to do changes in the way we're going to develop the country. For example, I'm saying that why have we accepted that we're a third world when we can be first world? But attempting to be a first world country requires certain fundamental changes in our society. And the newly elected president, I think, would need 2 to 3 years to do that, including a change probably of the charter. But that's not the only one.
Yeah, but walk me through the scenario. I mean, before we talk about the details of which changes, walk me through the scenario. There's an election in 2010.
There's an election in 2010. The new president may attempt to change the charter, and
Right away.
as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And if it happens, then maybe in the transitory provisions of that charter, we can call for new elections.
Do you envision also an election in 2010 for constitutional convention members, or no, not necessarily?
Well, I wish we can do that. You see, the major issue against charter change today is the possible extension of the president if we change the charter today. But I am thinking, supposing we try to have to elect delegates to the Constitutional Convention, not the Constituent Assembly, together with the coming election, then we can at least open the beginning of a convention, and definitely it will no longer favor the current president because it will be applied to the next one.
So the process begins in earnest after 2010 with the consent of the next president.
Yes, if he wishes to do so or she wishes to do so.
But you were saying in that story by Willard, sir, that you don't think that anyone who's going to run for president would support this. Why would anyone who spends all that money to become president be willing to give it up after 2 or 3 years?
I think there are some who would, if they are seriously thinking of changing the direction of change in the country. You know, if we want to be more of the same, you know, what we're experiencing today, we don't want any changes on the direction of change in this country, yeah, go ahead. We will have election in 2010, you will have 6 years. But, you know, I am just speaking based on the little experiences that we have had during these last 8 years in the cabinet. You know, there are certain reforms that we need to do for the country. Otherwise, what we will have is really just continuing with what we have. But if we are truly wanting to see a different scenario for the country, I think fundamental changes are necessary, which includes changing probably our government system
To a parliamentary form of government.
Well, I am biased for the parliamentary system, and that is but there are other things that we need to do. For example, you know, the global crisis today is indicative of the fact that probably the global system of our economies requires change, and we need to prepare our people for that. You know, it's a new global order, economic order has been discussed many years ago.
You're not going to give us that line about how we need to open up industries to 100% foreign ownership, right?
Hindi naman.
No, that's what the congressmen are giving us.
What I'm trying to say is that, as early as the early 90s, for example, in a conference of the Social Democrats, the then Prime Minister of Portugal looked into the global situation of the economy and says that something drastically wrong could happen in the future. And they started outlining a few directions. The Prime Minister of Australia recently made the same statements. I think we need to be sensitive to this kind of changes in the world and prepare. And of course, there are other things we need to do here. For example, I'm very weary of what will happen in 2010 elections. You see, we experienced that. You elect a president, you doubt whether she really won or not. It's very, very difficult. And I think the next president might suffer the same fate if we continue to have the kind of electoral system that we have today. I think that seriously, the next president, if he survives the election, should think in terms of really cleaning up the electoral system of the country, so that once and for all in the future we will have that confidence that we are electing our chosen leaders.
So here's the thing, and you mentioned it. You said you would have wanted it to start earlier, but because of the unpopularity of the government, you think it wasn't feasible. The fear is that under your scenario, that somebody comes in, changes the constitution, say Noli de Castro, and then he agrees to step down. You have a parliamentary form of government. Here comes Representative Arroyo, and she becomes prime minister. That's a scenario that has been brooded about. Is that possible under what you're envisioning?
It's the same scenario we were worried about President Ramos. And this is going to be the scenario we'll be worried about on the next president after President Gloria Arroyo. It's just that given the kind of environment we have politically, given the attitudes that our politicians have for each other, there will always be those kind of suspicions.
But it is possible, right?
If she wants, why not? But I don't think she does.
Sir, I'd like to understand it further. So somebody wins in 2010. A president and a vice president wins. And during the term of that president, they pave the way for a constitutional convention. And elections to be held again in 2010, right?
No, what I'm saying is that when you change a system of government, you require a fresh mandate. Supposing you change the charter sometime between 2010 and 2012. Then you shift to a parliamentary system. I think you need a new elections because you're elected from an old system and then you are introducing a new one. I think you must consult the people once more.
For a clear mandate.
For a clear mandate, especially if during those 2 years that you were a president, you start defining where the country should go. This is one of the things that we're lacking. Nobody's telling us where the hell we're going.
Wasn't that the president's job 8 years ago, sir?
We were trying.
So where are we going? We're going to charter change?
No, it's not charter change that we should really be focusing about. I think it's about the model that we have. I am not an economist, but I have been looking just on our country, and I think that if we proceed the way we're proceeding today, the most optimistic thing that I could hope for is for the Philippines to become the #1 third world country in the world.
It's the system that's the problem, not the people.
Well, we cannot say it's the system or the people. I think both. It's just that sometimes we neglect certain aspects because we focus on certain. For example, we say the morality of our people, the morality of our leaders, and we focus so much on that. What I'm saying is that there are also systemic reasons for the things that we're suffering today, and we should address all of this.
So you're against charter change right now?
I do not think the charter change is feasible with the present formula that some of our friends in government are pursuing. Constitutionally, you cannot have a constituent assembly without the Senate. That to me at least is clear that you need the Senate and the House to work together. If they cannot even do that, how can you have charter change in a constituent assembly?
So voting separately, Secretary?
Well, that's a debate, But to me, the fundamental is that you need both Senate and House to do this thing. Number one. Number two, I think given also the sentiment of our people today, I do not think that they will be confident if the new constitution is written by our Congress of today. So I don't think we need to do that.
That's probably correct.
At this time. So I
that's
thought
surprising. hearing from someone from hearing it from someone from the administration?
No naman. I think we're having our own debates. The president definitely wants charter change, but she wants this to happen with the full consent and approval of our people. It cannot be done any other way, no? And I don't think we should proceed when our people are not clear whether they want charter change or not. It's just that maybe I wish that we can recall a little bit of our history on this one.
But Mr. Secretary, one thing though, and I'm not talking about President Arroyo. When President Ramos tried to extend his term, the people said no. He was popular, the economy was doing well, and the people said no. But people may or may not want to revise the Constitution, but what they seem very clear about ever since Marcos's time is that they don't want overstaying presidents.
That's true. That is the sentiment that is prevailing.
So why would she try to stay beyond 2010?
Who wants to stay beyond 2010?
Well, you were just saying that it's possible under your scenario.
You are insisting that it can be possible. So,
If she runs.
Yeah,
if she runs.
I am not saying that she wants to be there in 2010. You know, the important thing is this. You know, if that's why I was saying earlier, if you can go back a little bit about history, you know, there was a time in the 70s that the debate for the nation is whether we will have change in the country either through violent revolution, which the communists were advocating at that time, or we will do fundamental reforms, which was at that time interpreted to be charter change. Unfortunately for us, unfortunately for the communists, I think the people decided on charter change. So we had a constitutional convention, but we had martial law, which I think more or less stopped that process of reform in the country. So today, I think basically we have the same fundamental questions, and the thing today, the difference today between today and the 60s is that time the option of revolution is really there. Today, I don't think the option of violent revolution will be entertained even by our people. So what is being entertained today is whether we should have change or not. But definitely, if we opt to have change, it will be in the form of peaceful reforms. Now, what are the tools that we need so that we will have reforms? I think that in today, given the political environment, it is very difficult to think of fundamental reforms. That's why I'm even looking forward to the next president. Maybe the next president hopefully should be bold enough to think that unless certain structural changes happen in Philippine society, it's really almost impossible to think of moving our nation forward to something else than becoming third world or number one third world in the country. If we want to be first world, certain fundamentals are necessary.
Yeah. Giving you the benefit of the doubt, here's the problem I see. Whoever becomes president in 2010 is not likely to say, I'm going to give it up after 3 years.
I think, you know, you really have a very, I don't know, and it's probably, we have become victim of
pessimistic point of view, is that what you're saying?
Cynical.
Cynical?
Cynical. So I think cynical is there, plus the fact that we're really probably losing faith. You know, I have been going around the country for the last 2 years. I think there are many good Filipinos out there. Potential leaders, quiet, simple, but really thinking of what's better for the country. You know, we are, I think, drowned by this environment or atmosphere of really being so cynical and probably apathetic.
And mistrust.
And mistrust.
Yeah.
You know, and you see, for some people, I think the center of what creating all this mistrust is us in government. We're gonna live in 2010, you know, and I'm just hopeful that when we are gone, maybe a new atmosphere will develop, and sincere intentions, if not real determination, could probably surface. You know, it is not really that unwise to call for new elections after 2000. If you are a reformist leader,
you want the mandate.
If you are a reformist leader, given the experience that we're having today, you would always want a mandate. For every fundamental move that you should do, you must have a mandate to make sure that you are really moving the nation forward. You need that. To me, it would be the wisest thing to do. That if the moment you have initiated, for example, converting the character of our armed forces, into something more attuned to our constitution. You know, our armed forces should be a citizens' army in the form of citizens' army. We have not done that. We depoliticizing the police. We have not done that. You know, we're doing a few of those things, but not finished. Changing the constitution, cleaning up the electoral system. If you are the president who has been doing this consistently during the last 2 years, my God, the people might even say, don't run anymore, we will elect you already.
Yeah.
So why not? If I'm if I'm the next president, I will think like that. If you can really truly establish reforms during that short period of 2 to 3 years, probably the people will trust you.
Secretary, there are about 6 vying for the presidency in 2010. Have you actually, I'm just curious, spoken to any of them about your proposal?
Well, I thought that this is a time to do so. Most of them are my friends, no, and they are decent citizens of this country. Any of them can become a good president, and maybe if it really depends on the environment that we have, no. But if we begin to really think in terms of the future and really be affected by, wow, you know, many of our people are truly suffering. We need really to respond to this kind of
So you haven't
situation.
spoken, sir? Wala pa, but you plan to?
Wala pa. I plan to do some talking one by one.
Okay, you're going to call me cynical again, but the crop of people who are coming up in the surveys, you said that they're your friends. Do you see any of them as possibly being able to share this vision of yours?
Yeah, you know, for example, Manny Villar. I have had a lot of sessions with Manny. That man has a good heart and a good mind. No, I'm sure he'll be open. Oh, see, Senator Ligarda, the same. I think she will be open properly, you know, if we can discuss this properly. Marojas was a fellow in the cabinet, you know. He has concerns for the future. I don't know about Chis. He's too young for me, but I don't know. But we can also talk, you
You're
know.
already endorsing your,
I'm not endorsing anybody, you know.
Your favorite
For
candidates.
example, our vice president, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, look at the. We are lucky in this country. We're really lucky.
This is what we'll do, Secretary. When you do speak to them, we'll have you again, all 6, and let us know who's
Okay. Not just 6,
it could possibly
I'm not going to limit my conversations with 6 people.
Because there could be more.
Yeah, no, you see, I just saw you on television. You have Villanueva and Brother Mike Velarde. Brother Mike Velarde. In fact, I have talked to Brother Mike Velarde. He says that if I become president, I will not stay there longer than 3 years. I will just introduce some fundamentals. You see, the idea is there. Maybe we'll just refine it.